Is the housing market completely out of this world? After more than 2 years of rocketing prices, are we going to parachute back to earth, or are we going to crash back into reality? Home prices have shot into the atmosphere 42% over the last 3 years, but mortgage demand is running out of steam. Rate locks are rising, retail sales jump, and home builder sentiment is the biggest leap that we've seen in a decade. All of that plus, is the housing market a major cause of inflation and Airbnb profitable, and buyers are returning to the market and bringing more sellers with them? It's time to suit up for this wild ride in This Week in Real Estate. Yeah! Welcome, everyone. All the audio and podcast listeners probably couldn't tell, but I'm kind of proud of that one because that was a live read this week. It was tough.
That was really good.
To get everything. I'm getting better at the live reads. Thanks for joining us. My name is Ray. Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan. I tried to get rid of the alliteration so it wasn't so. I wanted it to be a little flowier this week. I don't want it to be chunky with all the alliteration. So
thank you. No one likes a chunky commentator.
Yeah.
Dan, I know you're enjoying sunny California. It's a little cold.
Dude, it's 47 right now in California. Here in sunny Rancho Cucamonga, it's 47. I can't do this.
In sunny Rancho Cucamonga, it's 47 degrees. It's like in the high 50s here or low 60s here, so it's kind of nice in Arkansas today.
It's only going to hit 57 today here. So
I'm sure all the Californians are loving it.
I can't do this.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us live, even if you are a little bit chilly on the West Coast. If you're joining us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, you can comment and I can display that comment and then we can talk about you, or we can talk about your comment. There's Dusty Martin. She says, I guess, good job showing up on time for the change, Matt. For the record, he was in Clubhouse early. Melissa Mara says, blanket man Dan. And then Peggy's here. What's up, Peggy? Thanks for joining us today. Olivier, he's also in the comments on YouTube. He said, please talk about me. Done. So there you are. Well, Dan, without further ado, are you ready to jump into these headlines?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, so we're going to try something a little bit different today. We're going to get right into the headlines. We have 3 topics to deep dive later. But first, let's talk about the slight uptick in mortgage rates. This article comes to us from the Realtor magazine that you guys can find because you're paying for it if you're a National Association of Realtor member at nar.realtor/magazine. Slight uptick in the mortgage rates, but costs remain low. Mortgage rates ticked up slightly this week, but continue to remain well below their November 2022 peak, which eclipsed 7%. The 30-year fixed-rate mortgage averaged 6.12% this week, according to Freddie Mac. Lower rates in the 6% range. Lower rates in the 6% range since the beginning of the year are helping to bring costs down for potential buyers. Quote, this quote is from Sam Carter, Freddie Mac's chief economist. Interested home buyers are easing their way back into the market just in time for the spring buying season. Many renters are now paying about the same amount in rent as they would for a monthly mortgage if they owned a $300,000 home, said Nadia Evangelo, senior economist and director of real estate research for the National Association of Realtors. So nearly 85% of counties in the U.S. have a median price lower than $300,000, according to NAR. All right, Dan. Wait, let me do this. Switch. This is a lot to switch. I'll get used to it. But what do you got, Dan?
I gotta wait for that. Sorry, my bad. So we got another one from Realtor Mag. Again, you're paying for it, so I guess you can get it in actual paperback, but you can just go to the website like we do. But home prices have surged 42% in the last 3 years. A slowdown is now underway, says NAR chief economist Lawrence Yun, but don't expect to see dramatic price drops like some of the clickbaity headlines you're going to see. After 3 years of runaway home prices, which is why we chose the thumbnail today, buyers may soon find relief. In some markets, they may have already found it. The National Association of Realtors' latest quarterly housing report shows that home price growth is cooling, though that doesn't mean that prices are falling. Okay, there's a difference. The national median price for a single-family existing home rose 4% in the fourth quarter of 2022. I've been waiting to hear those fourth quarter numbers, so they rose another 4%. going all the way up to 378,700. That's a much slower pace than the 8.6 increase in the previous quarter. Further, only 18% of metro markets posted a double-digit price gains in the fourth quarter of 2022 compared to 46% in the previous quarter, the NAR data shows. And finally, this is a quote from NAR chief economist Lawrence Yun. A slowdown in home prices is underway and welcomed, particularly as the typical home price has risen 42% in the last 3 years. That's crazy. He goes on to say, even with a projected reduction in home sales this year, prices are expected to remain stable in the vast majority of markets due to extremely limited supply. Moreover, there are signs that buyers are returning, which we have more on later, that they're returning as mortgage rates decline, even with inventory levels near historic lows.
Yeah, and I think one of those signs that buyers are returning to the market could be that the increase in lock. So this article comes to us from BAM, Broke Agent Media. It says rate lock volumes rose 32% in January, ending a 9-month streak of declines. So on February 13th, Black Knight Incorporated announced the release of its Originations Market Monitor report for January of 2023. And based on the mortgage origination data, it looks like the January's report shows an increase of 32% in rate lock volumes, driven by falling mortgage rates. Obviously not falling prices, which everyone has been waiting on. It's really just the slight dip in rates that we've seen so far. They go on to say, according to Optimal Blue Mortgage Market Indices from Black Knight, 30-year rates dropped 36 basis points to 6.16 in January, continuing a decline that started last November. Consumer confidence was noticeably higher in January, with agents across the country reporting an increase in buyer activity compared to December of 2022. With the increase in home prices that Dan just talked about, the average mortgage loan amount increased from $336 to $340, while the average home price purchase rose from $419 to $421. Credit scores dropped 4 points for cash out refis, bringing those scores down to 36 points total. They do go on to say at the very bottom, rate lock volumes are still down more than 60% compared to year-over-year numbers, which we know is skewed due to all the crazy housing and super ultra low rates that we experienced last year.
And then I have.
I got it right as you said, and then.
Well, the delay is tough, dude. I'm seeing you do it, but I'm still trying to pick the delay up. But I have more on this one that's going to give you a little more insight on that one. But mortgage demand drops as interest rates bounce higher. And this article is from CNBC. So after falling for 5 straight weeks, mortgage rates jumped last week, triggering a decline in mortgage demand. Total mortgage application volume fell 7.7% last week compared with the previous week, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association's seasonally adjusted index. The average contract. I'm just combining words at this point. The average contract interest rate is what I meant to say for 30-year fixed rate mortgages with conforming loan balances increased to 6.39% from 6.18%. Here's a quote, and it's not a great quote, but I threw it in because it's from Joel Kahn. He is MBA's vice president and deputy chief economist. Mortgage rates increased across the board last week, pushed higher by market expectations that inflation will persist. Applications to refinance a home dropped 13% for the week. And here's where it starts to get interesting. And they were 76% lower than the same week 1 year ago. At the current rate, 100,000 fewer borrowers can benefit from a refinance compared with just 1 week ago. And that's according to that same data that Ray had from Black Knight. Now, a year ago, with mortgage rates at 4.05%, there were just under 4 million refinance candidates. So a lot less, from 4 million down to about 100,000. And then let's finish the article with this one. Mortgage applications to purchase a home fell 6% for the week and were 43% lower than the same week a year ago. Real estate agents across the country are, though, reporting a jump in buyer demand in the past few weeks, perhaps indicating an early start to the historically busy spring market. And we do have more on that coming in a future article.
So a historically busy spring market, you would think, would be great, especially for a quote unquote consumer facing website that's maybe focused on home search results, right? That is what we would think, and we might be wrong. News Corp will slash 1,250 jobs following the rough real estate earnings. This is from Inman. Now, keep in mind, News Corp is the parent company for Realtor.com, Move Inc. So News Corp revenue dropped in the final quarter of 2022 with plans to shed an estimated 1,250 jobs. And all this is amid talks, quote unquote talks. We'll see if it's actually meaningful with CoStar Group, who said they wanted to acquire Realtor.com. Revenues from real estate sales and referrals fell during the quarter. I guess it's talking about the last quarter, a 3-month stretch that saw Move revenue fall $23 million or 14%, driven by broader real estate slowdown. News Corp, which owns the Dow Jones Wall Street Journal and other media companies across the world, said that discussions about a possible $3 billion sale of Move are still underway, but it declined to provide much of an update on the potential deal. This is a quote from, what person is this? It just says from News Corp, but in terms of portfolio optimization, as publicly reported, we've been actively engaged in discussions with CoStar Group about the potential sale. Any transaction will be designed to create shareholder value and strengthen Realtor.com's competitive position. However, there's no assurance regarding the timing or completion of the transaction. So it looks like they're doing what they can to stay quote unquote efficient, as we hear hear most CEOs talk about it.
That's what they're calling it.
Yeah, you have to cut the people to increase efficiency. But another strategy of cutting people is actually to increase your stock price, because now hopefully you can get the same efficiency with less people at a lower cost. So we'll see. Maybe this was just a move to kind of bolster them ahead of the sale,
to help out the stockholders to go, oh, okay, well, they're trying to be more efficient, so let's keep that stock price up.
Yeah. Speaking of up.
There we go. We got it. Retail sales jump 3% in January, smashing expectations despite inflation increase. Now, it's kind of hard to think that a 3% jump in January is smashing expectations, but there wasn't a lot of spending in December, and it was less than expected. So a lot of people are saying, well, if they don't have money to spend on retail stuff, then they're not going to spend it on homes. But maybe that's changing. So sales at retailers rose far more expected in January as consumers persevered despite rising inflation pressures. Advanced retail sales for the month increased 3% compared with expectations for a rise of 1.9%. That's from the Commerce Department, and they reported that today. So this part is interesting to me. The numbers are not adjusted for inflation, meaning that consumers outpaced inflation by 0.5% for the month. That's kind of interesting to me. Even with a 2.4% increase in gas prices, receipts at service stations were flat. Online oh my gosh, dude, I cannot talk today. I'm so bad. Online retailers saw a rise of 1.3%, while electronics and appliance stores increased 3.5%. So now no categories saw a decline. That's also pretty interesting to me. And in December, sales fell 1.1%. So I've seen a lot of the clickbaiter YouTube videos using that December stat to sell like looming crash. And again, if they can't put money into, retail stuff and buying presents for their families, how are they going to spend money on homes? But that is just another sign that, these numbers are wrong and our retailers are seeing an increase. So that's a big positive to me. Quick one that we'd add because it's a big deal to me.
A big thing to note on that too is that due to that increase in retail sales and due to the CPI, did we talk about CPI? I mean, CPI numbers kind of came out and it kind of has the same thing to do with what you were just talking about. But it looks like that inflationary pressures are still present, which will mean that the Fed is going to lean towards raising rates or keeping rates higher for longer. And that has also repositioned the stock market today, if you've seen what's happening the last day or two.
So does that mean these positive numbers, retailers are seeing a better turnout than they expected? That means they should keep inflation pushing?
Yeah. So whenever orders increase, right? If you go back to what causes inflation, it's when people have a lot of money and they order a bunch of stuff. Yeah. And when they order a bunch of stuff, whatever that stuff is goes up in price. and that's an inflationary pressure. So the increase in rates is supposed to basically take money out of circulation or out of the economy so that people can order less stuff,
Right.
making overall prices drop. That's an oversimplification of what's happening, but
Right.
that's essentially what. So the number was slated to be 0.4, and they adjusted the estimate to 0.5 last week or 2 weeks ago. So
Yeah.
it did hit the expectation, but the long look, it was actually a little bit higher than expectations. So due to that, most people are expecting the Fed to continue to raise rates next time they meet. But
Interesting stuff.
yeah, we'll see what happens. But otherwise, we do talk a lot about companies that are these new startup companies that don't make a lot of money and don't have any profit. Well, today we get to report on one of these companies that's become profitable. So this is Airbnb. You may have heard of this little shop.
Yeah, maybe.
I was actually, whenever I first read this article, I was actually shocked that they had not been profitable.
Ever?
Well, they haven't had a full year. So this report is from Inman. It says Airbnb notches first profitable full year as demand surges and rates fall. So Airbnb posted a $1.9 billion profit for 2022. It's their first full year in the black and an early indication of the short-term rental platform's ability to withstand a broader economic slowdown, according to an earnings call on Tuesday. Fueled by a surge in demand and daily rates that grew 36% since 2019, Airbnb generated $8.4 billion in revenue last year, which is a 40% increase from 2021, as investors clamored to rent out homes while the pandemic subsided with an emergence of the COVID vaccine. I started trying to change how I say it, but I think you could say it now.
It's fine.
Hopefully we won't get censored.
Yeah. It's gonna kill
Overall,
our
it was a
10
banner
views we
year
have.
for the short-term rental platform in 2021 that posed a loss of $352 million. So yeah, that's a far contrast. They posted a $1.9 billion profit. In 2021, they posted a loss of $352 million. This is going exactly the other way. More on this article, if you want to dive deeper into the profitability of Airbnb and some of the changes that they made as a company, can be found on Inman.
And doesn't this also say, Ray, that you have the 3% increase in retail sales? Doesn't this also say that people are kind of traveling a little more?
Yeah, so I would say yes and no. So we stayed in an Airbnb because I got a big family. We stayed in an Airbnb instead of a hotel recently when we were traveling,
Yeah.
because for the same price as the hotel, actually cheaper than getting 2 rooms in a hotel, we could stay in
Right.
a whole house.
Well,
We had
and-
the whole house to ourselves, and it wasn't like a ritzy second destination. It was just a regular house in a
Right.
regular
House.
neighborhood of a city that we had to travel to. So I think that's going to be interesting to see what happens, because there's all kinds of special permissions. Can this continue to happen where these residents allow Airbnbs within within their own neighborhood, or are POAs going to start restricting them?
Yeah.
That's, I think, where the outside pressure happens that could impact Airbnb and VRBO and some of those other, what do they call, short-term rental companies.
Yeah.
Is if people get tired of it and then start putting massive restrictions on those properties. There's this whole city in Arkansas that has limited short-term rentals to a number that is 80 below the number of current short-term rentals. And so they did that so that as one goes away, it can't come back.
I think Shani has something to say on this one real quick.
What's up, Shani? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
hey. So
Hi.
that's so funny you brought that up, because a lot of PUDs or HOA condo associations, they've always usually prohibited them as becoming more rampant. And I just NPR ran a piece about 3 weeks ago just about this, how whole cities, just as you mentioned, I think the city that they talked about, I'm going to say it was in Indiana. I have to look, but there's a movement across the nation about people, actually not just planned community developments, but also, cities, municipalities, because they're saying that they're a disruption of the peace, and people are coming up in arms. So it's a big topic. I think we're going to hear more. New York State, I think it's either the city of New York there's a new ordinance that's coming out that's very controversial on this topic as well about Airbnb specifically or short-term rentals.
So you're saying New York is also limiting them? Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll send the article because it was just something. It's very contentious, but yeah, it's actually not. In the past we were used to seeing communities, plan unit developments or HOAs, but now it's actually municipalities doing it for more often than not. So I will send that to you. But yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah, it's going to make so here's what happens, and we didn't really intend to deep dive on this one, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I know we've talked a little bit on the past, but here's what happens. If you're in a situation in which your municipality or POA limits the number of Airbnbs, then you're going to have one person sell for $1.3 million and the other person sell for $500,000. And the reason is the $1.3 million is the only one of 10 income producing properties that's allowed in the area. So not everyone gets the benefit of the increase in potential value in those areas. And you're trying to make areas where people want to live or want to buy as a second home or an Airbnb or some kind of income producing property. You're just trying to make that like a regular neighborhood. So it's, we'll see what happens. I can understand, like, if I'm living there, like, do I really want to live by an Airbnb? Probably not. But at the same time, would I love to sell and get the benefit of being a home that is Airbnb-able so that I can get an increase in 2 or 3 times the money? Absolutely. So we'll see how the market shakes out. And I have a feeling that there could be a lot of pressure on lawmakers and municipalities to reverse this as people start to sell. But there's always that one house that's on the main drag that hasn't sold because every time you approach them, it's like a $300,000 deal, and they're like, "Yes, I'll sell for $3 million." There's always that one.
All right, they're gonna bury me in this house. But before we move on, so there's Dusty's on YouTube. She says, "Yeah, in Arizona, both cities and HOAs are doing their best to try to get rid of them." And then on Clubhouse, Olivier says, "Most Airbnb here are illegal." And I'm like, "Really? That's crazy."
Illegal or legal?
Illegal. And he says, yeah, 92% in Montreal. So I don't know what that means.
How do they still have them? Do they just ignore the
I don't know.
and law?
I think I forget the cities, but it's Los Angeles City, and then there's also Santa Monica. They try to limit these things, but
interesting.
It's a no-brainer in my opinion because you spend about the same or less than a hotel, and you have a full kitchen. You don't have to go out for every meal.
Yeah, full house.
And I know those continental
extra bathrooms,
quote unquote free breakfasts in hotels are legit, but it's way better than that. And you can just come and go as you please. I mean, I don't know. I think it's crazy to me because why not have a cheaper option for people that's, if you have some standards, maybe we set some laws as standards and then it infuses more cash into your local neighborhoods. I think it's a no-brainer, but
it could be a situation where builders see more of an opportunity and start to, instead of build to rent, build to Airbnb. But what do builders think overall about the current economy that we're in, Dan?
Well, builder sentiment up, and it's the first time they've jumped this much in over a decade. So America's home builders are growing more bullish as buyer demand picks up, driven in part by slowly lowering mortgage rates. Home builder confidence in the market for newly built single-family homes in February rose 7 points to 42. And that's after seeing declines for the last, 8, 9, 10 months. And that is according to the National Association of Home Builders, Wells Fargo Housing Market Index. This is the highest reading since September and the largest monthly gain since June of 2013. And we always have to say this. We know that 50 is the kind of break even. So below 50 is still negative. Above 50 is going to start seeing positive. But a 7-point jump is pretty good. So this is a quote, and I wanted to expound upon this a little bit. This is from the NAHB chairman, Alicia Huey, and she is a home builder and developer from Birmingham, Alabama. And she says, with the largest monthly increase for builder sentiment since June 2013, the HMI indicates that incremental gains for housing affordability have the ability to price in buyers to the market, meaning get buyers into the market if we price these homes correctly. She goes on to say the nation continues to face a sizable housing shortage that can only be closed by building more affordable, attainable housing. Now, I think this one is really, really important that she makes this point, Ray, because I don't think enough people are talking about this. I've been talking about it for, I don't know, 6-8 months on the show that, as lumber prices came down, they should be buying that if they've, worked through all their overly expensive lumber prices that were historically high after the pandemic hit. But the lumber prices came down and demand is there. Demand, obviously it waned when they're up in the 7s, but then they ticked down. They got into the 5s for a half second, but demand is there. But the inventory is going to artificially keep this market inflated and keep prices up. We need this. So it's important to me that she's saying this. It's important to me that at least one of these builders, and she's the chairman of the NAHB, it's important that she's saying this stuff. And hopefully, because what she's saying is not only do we need to adjust our prices and price in, quote unquote, price in buyers, we need to build in that lower third. We need to build affordable housing across this country. There is none. There's not enough.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons why builders have been just kind of waiting on the sidelines wasn't necessarily high rates. It wasn't necessarily the super crazy prices of materials. I think it was uncertainty. They were uncertain about materials. Right. They were uncertain about rates, uncertain about what buyers would do. Yeah. So I think as certainty returns to the market, builder sentiment is going to go up because the predictability of being able to start a build right now and finish in 6 months and have it sold in 2 or 3, that's going to increase. So we all need more inventory. We all know that builders have to build for us to get the inventory. So hopefully the builders will start breaking ground on some stuff that people want to buy. And that's it for the headlines.
There we go. Some quick hits for you.
Yeah. Hopefully you guys enjoy that. Let us know what the feedback is. We've got 3 more articles that we want to dive into. And this is where we really want you guys to participate in the conversation and send us a lot of comments. But we're going to be talking about housing, if it's a major cause of inflation. We're going to talk about what's exactly happening with home prices around the country. And we're going to talk about buyers and if they're returning to the market, what's happening to sellers. So leave us some feedback on that. If you enjoyed it, we're going to try to front load the show with those major headlines. So if that's the only part you can listen to the show, then you at least know what in the world is going on. Hi, someone else said hello. Good stuff. Okay, good. Ishma Best. Good stuff, he says. Thank you. Yeah, so leave us some feedback on that. Let us know if you like it. If you do, I think we'll keep it up. I like that format because it allows us to cover way more news stories.
Yeah, it was
and
good.
Then it allows us to go deeper on some other ones later. So
and then it pushes the much maligned banter to the end. The people that want the banter are still watching, so that's fine.
They're still here. Speaking of, Dan, before we dive into the deep dive section of the show, would you tell people what this show is actually all about?
Yeah, I'd love to. Now, when Ray and I met here on the interwebs trolling realtors in the same groups, I had an idea for a show because, back then it was called the Bearded Men of Real Estate, and I am, in fact, a bearded man of real estate. And when I met Ray, I noticed something very interesting about him.
What's that, Daniel?
He's never, not once, been anywhere in sub-zero temperatures. Never, not once.
Bruh.
I have. I think it was only twice though. I think there was one time in my life where Arkansas got to sub-zero temperatures.
No way. That's why I thought of that, because it's cold. I'm joking, obviously, if you saw the beginning of the show wearing 800 blankets and a jacket with a hoodie. Yeah. It's 47 here. I'm like, dude, I don't think Arkansas gets that cold, does it?
Not usually. I mean, there may be like 1 or 2 days in a year that we get that low, just like there's like a week or maybe 2 weeks that we're over 100. There's like a week or maybe 2 weeks that we're at 0. Otherwise it's a pretty temperate climate. But there was, like maybe a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, we got to 2 degrees on a Friday. It was 2 degrees. But
that's kind of what I was hoping for. You got close, but not all the way there.
That's right. But I did have to travel to get to some other sub-zero temps, but I actually love the cold weather. I don't mind it at all.
I do too.
You can always put on more clothes.
Yeah.
There's a point. There's a point in the summer where you get so hot that there's nothing else you could do. The AC's barely keeping up. You're wearing as little clothing as possible. I'm in my teeny weeny bikini and still can't cool off. I mean, that's trouble.
I bought one of those Borat bathing suits, that just does this.
That's very nice.
It's very nice and it keeps me cool, but it's not enough, and I'm a ginger, so I overheat real quick.
No.
But we digress. I obviously noticed he's a beautifully bearded man, but I also noticed he loves giving value up front to not only his clients, but just to humans in general. So the show is about being more as an agent, but also being more as a human.
Yeah, and one of the ways we believe in being more is to know what in the world is going on so that you can consult with your clients, or if you are a real estate investor or someone interested in real estate, that you can make the best decisions possible with your own real estate investment. So that's the whole reason why we do the show. So thank you guys for joining us here. Dusty Martin says, that's my outlook. I can always put on more clothes, but at a certain point you get arrested for taking too much off. They even do that in Arizona?
No, they're fine in
free,
Arizona.
it was more free over there, right?
Yeah. They don't even care about time zones and things. There's like, dude, we're not doing that. It's wild, wild west still in AZ.
Get right into that lifestyle over there.
Lots of colonies, we'll call them.
I have it's a new little category. I'm trying to adjust the stream because I just noticed that it's on maybe I can't do that during the show, but there's this category that says QR codes to donate and a QR code image and live stream sales. I didn't know you could do all this. We may have to start selling some t-shirts like this.
Yeah, there you go. Or just buying us cups of coffee, quote unquote.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. Okay. I like this one better. Say something else, Dusty, so I can display it. Okay. There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't like that version better. Let's change that graphic again.
I like
another version.
Yeah, I like that.
Here's another one.
That's
that one's good. I like that one. We'll go with rounded. It says, she says, yeah, but there's a huge debate about agents wearing flip-flops to show homes. This was a hot topic on Broke Agent Media because someone was like, agents should not wear flip-flops to show homes. And it was debated roundly.
Yeah, I wear flip-flops to show homes.
Peggy said, I'll take a t-shirt. Whatever happened to LaMarche getting a shirt for being the #1 fan? Wow. Somebody's sticking up for you, LaMarche. Are you here, LaMarche? He's not in the chat. He's in the
comments. I don't know. Supposedly he was here first. I thought he had the first comment, but he didn't. It's Dusty. Dusty has the first comment is what I see at 10:07. I don't see Matt's.
Yeah, I did. He's not even in the chat. He's only on Clubhouse today. What's up, Matt?
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm driving, so I can't quick.
Yeah, that's probably smart to not do that. But I appreciate you being here, Matt.
Yeah, and it's also a vibe with your clients. Like,
also breaking up really bad, Matt.
It's because he's driving.
It just gave me the red bar. It may be me. I just saw the red bar come across and say that I may have a rough connection here. So that may be me. Sorry, guys.
You just wanted to get rid of Matt. We love you.
No, I did. I had a red bar come around.
JK.
Okay, so Dan, let's talk about this next news story. The big question is what's causing inflation? And we have a news article here that asks the question, is housing the thing that's actually causing inflation to happen?
So can I just
what's
answer
interesting about this? Yeah,
I
go ahead.
I didn't read this. I didn't read this article because these are the deep dives. And I like to just give my hot takes. But based on, we kind of touched on it in one of the articles in the quick hits. But yes, I mean, if housing is too hot and the demand is way too high, you have to. Now, you have to increase rates. Now, inflation, I know, works differently. But in my opinion, I'd say, yeah, because 43% increase in home prices over the last 3 years, you got to slow that down somehow. That's just my opinion. So now we can get into it.
Okay, then let's dive in.
Deep dive.
So housing singled out as the largest contributor to inflation, says economist. What I found most interesting about this is I read several articles about the consumer price index and what happened to it and how it was a little bit higher and what's going to happen. None of those articles except this one said it was because of housing. So I thought that was interesting. On housing, on websites that were totally unrelated to housing, they blamed other things. On websites that were related to housing, they blamed housing. So the growing cost of housing was singled out on Tuesday as a key contributor of inflation in January, according to new data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The CPI, Consumer Price Index, which measures how Americans paid for consumer goods and services, rose 0.5% on a monthly basis between December and January, and 6.4% on an annual basis, according to the latest Bureau of Labor Statistics data. 6.4% annual increase represents a slight cooling and continues downward trend since the annual inflation peaked at 9.1% in June. That was the highest reading since 1981. That was a year before I was born. But policy setters at the Federal Reserve said that they still see multiple reasons for concern, with several pricing indexes picking up their increases on a monthly basis. This is a quote from, well, this quote is from earlier, so it's not really related to this specific number. But Fed Chair Jerome Powell says we see ourselves having a lot of work left to do. But that was before this number came out.
Just so you know, throw a quote in to make it look like it agrees with the numbers or what they're saying. That's crazy.
Just threw it in there. Dr. Lisa Sturdivant, she's the chief economist at Bright MLS, said in a statement that while this is the smallest year-over-year price increase since October 2021, today's report suggests that the downward trend of inflation may be bumpier than they had hoped. It means that the Federal Reserve will have to push forward with rate hikes through the spring, which will increase borrowing costs for consumers and businesses. So a lot of people said that maybe the Fed would just leave rates where they are. They're not going to drop rates anytime soon. So there's this camp that says, okay, this number means that the Fed will leave rates higher for longer.
Right.
There's another camp that says this number means that the Fed is going to have to increase rates again. So maybe 0.25 or 0.5. I haven't seen any estimates of what they are, but it's just as an example.
Well, and then you throw in what we talked about in the quick hits, which is, retailers seeing a 3% increase in sales when the prediction was under 2%. I mean, that's the Fed. The Fed's going to see that and go, oh, so we need to pull back or push a little bit more so everything can pull back and slow things down. Meaning we can handle. The country can handle where inflation is at right now. That's kind of what you would read out of that, right?
Yeah. Shelter index is what they're calling it. Was a dominant factor in the monthly increase in index for all items, less food and energy, while other components were a mix of increases and declines. I don't know. Like I said, everywhere where this report was covered that wasn't housing based, they talked about other factors.
They probably talked about the retail numbers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because
yes,
housing is obviously up by crazy, but it's slowing. So what they've been doing over the last 10-ish months has been working. Housing has slowed. It's cooling off. It's falling back down to earth. But the retail side of things is booming. Maybe it was slow in December, but it's kind of picked up in the last couple of months. And then Olivier adds on Clubhouse, he says rates will be around this number for longer than what most people believe. Which I hope that's not true because I predicted 5.5% for this year. So,
well, the rates between people, I think is, or between banks is what's going to stay there. I think the actual rate in which people pay for houses that may go down.
See, so now that we talk about it a little bit more, my hot take, and I'm kind of a dumb guy, I don't know a lot of stuff, but
yeah, true. I think everyone knows.
Right, good. You're the smart one. I'm the dumb one. I'm also the not handsome one, and you're the handsome one. It's fine. I can play my role on here, Ray. It's fine.
That's right.
But after you talk about it a little bit, it's like, okay, well, housing needs a boost right now, but we don't need the boost necessarily to be in sales. Sales are down, I think, in pretty much every state. But yes, supply needs to be boosted. So how do you boost the supply if you don't keep the rates lower? If you don't keep the rates higher, if you keep the rates lower, it's going to keep it artificially high. So I think, and I mean housing interest rates. I don't mean what people borrow money at, like Ray always says. I mean the housing interest rates. You're going to have to keep them up there. It cannot go back down. No way they can go back down under 5 again. It'll just kill things. So they have to, and you have to stabilize this housing market because it's too high. People are running into an affordability crisis. You have to bring more sellers to the market, which we'll see what that third article we have says on that.
Yeah, I'm going to get some of the comments too in Clubhouse. Dusty Martin says she's not sure if it's really housing's fault or the people just wanting to blame real estate agents for everything.
I think that's partially true, but more what Ray is saying, where housing websites say it's housing's fault, say it's real estate agents' faults. Non-housing websites are like, they don't even mention housing. They're like, oh yeah, housing's up, but it's mellowed out. We're good.
Yeah, I'm looking for. Oh, Peggy said I did go out on Clubhouse. Hopefully, I'm still there now.
I'm sure they would have said something else because I'm in the comments on Clubhouse, so I think they're good.
Are there any comments about this topic, or you want to go to the next article?
So Maurice had the one. Sorry, Olivier had the one about rates staying higher for longer than people accepted, and then Scap checking in.
What's up?
Any
Scap?
appraisal news today, or should I just go back to talking Matt LaMarche on Instagram? Yeah, no appraisal news.
Yeah. Just go hit up Maddie.
You're good, buddy. Get back to the golf course. You're good.
Peggy said she went to her. Okay, I'm gonna have to read it on two places here.
Yeah.
See, I could hit this button, but it doesn't show the whole thing.
It only
I went to my local Chamber of Commerce annual economic forecast breakfast in January, and our keynote speaker was Dr. Harker. He said the Federal Reserve was committed to bringing inflation back down to 2%.
Ooh, that's a
he also delivered a noteworthy comment about raising. Right now, I have to move this so I can see it. He also delivered a noteworthy comment about raising interest rates at a slower pace than last year, likely 25 basis points. Dr. Harker spoke on low unemployment rate being in Philadelphia metro area, less than 4%. He also expressed optimism, noting signs of inflation was cooling, adding that the national economy remains relatively healthy overall. Thanks, Peggy.
I just don't think we're in an overall bad spot. I am seeing a lot of articles about a recession is coming, a recession is coming, a recession is coming, but I don't know the numbers on what a recession means. It has to drop this much to be a recession, but pulling back a little bit, isn't that we can't keep this forward momentum going. It can't. It's got to be a little more ebb and flowy, right? And we've been in ebb for 3 years now.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with it in the long run.
So what's the overall thoughts on this? Is it housing's fault? No.
I don't think it's housing's fault. Are they a contributor, one of many?
Partially.
Perhaps.
Partially to blame.
Yeah. Let's see. All right. Let's go to the next article. Peggy said Dr. Harker is the president of the Federal Reserve Bank in Philadelphia.
I was wondering.
We got it. I knew who it was. He was quoted in an article previously.
Yeah, I've heard his name, but I didn't know who he was.
A recession is always coming. The economy is cylindrical. Oh, cyclical. Cylindrical economy. Sorry, my head's been on too many UFOs.
It's a cylindrical, lots of things shooting cylindrical things down lately, right?
Yeah, a mysterious cylinder in the air is what it is. A recession is always coming. The economy is cyclical. And for Dan, a recession is a contraction in the economy for 2 consecutive quarters in a row. Well, wait. That's what it used to be before they changed the full definition, Dusty. So you have to update your definition for the current administration. What's happening with home prices, Dan? Let's talk about it.
It's good that the definitions can just change.
It just changed according to administration.
Well, 2 quarters in a row 4 years ago, that's bad. 2 quarters in a row now, that's fine.
Yeah,
okay. It's not a recession.
So this article was published last Friday on CNBC. It talks about what's happening with home prices. The U.S. housing market cooled off pretty dramatically last year after mortgage rates more than doubled to historic lows. Home prices, however, have been stickier. Prices began falling last June, but are still higher than they were a year ago. Now demand appears to be coming back to the market due to a slight drop in rates. Prices are pushing back. In December, the last read, U.S. home prices were 6.9% higher year over year, according to CoreLogic. That was the lowest annual appreciation rate since the summer of 2020. So it was basically the lowest annual appreciation rate since it was kind of a normal number. Falling home prices were reflecting a weaker housing demand as inflation and job cuts and uncertainty in the economy piled into a barrier put up by higher mortgage rates. This is a quote from Selma Hepp, chief economist at CoreLogic. While home prices continue to fall from November, the rate of decline was lower than that of seen in the summer and still adds up to only 3% cumulative drop in prices since last spring. So not only are the prices still up, but they're still way up. and it doesn't look like they're going to be coming down or dropping anytime soon. It's the exact headline that we've been telling people now for a year and a half or two to look at. Home price growth slows, or home price gains slow. They're still gaining. They're just gaining at a slower pace.
Yeah. Or deceleration. There's a deceleration in home
Decelerating,
price
yeah.
gains,
Yeah.
right? Any way they can say home price gains slow. They're trying to say it differently now because for years it was home price gains slow. But now it's deceleration in the market.
This article also goes into the early spring market surge. The nation's home builders are also reporting an increase in demand as home builder sentiment in January rose for the first 12 months. For the first time in 12 months, the National Association of Home Builders said builders reported increases in current sales, buyer traffic, and expectations. Lower mortgage rates were also driving new demand.
Well, but that buyer traffic part is huge because a lot of realtors I'm seeing, I mean, someone commented here in articles and just friends around the country, they're seeing open houses. We had a discussion in the contributors group about it, but the open houses, just seeing more foot traffic and seeing more buyers come through.
Yeah.
You know, that means a little more. That's a kind of boots on the ground approach to getting your numbers. And, you know, if you're seeing that in your local market, you're going to feel a little more optimistic about it.
This is a quote from Robert Dietz, his NAHB chief economist. With mortgage rates anticipated to continue to trend lower this year, affordability conditions are expected to improve, which will increase demand and bring more buyers back to the market. Let's see. The president of Black Knight Data and Analytics says we can see definite signs of a January uptick in lending on lower rates and somewhat lower home prices, but affordability still has a stronghold on much of the market.
Yeah, and by the way, all of these numbers, because I research way too many of these numbers and watch way too many of these clickbaity videos, but there are some markets. This is a national thing we're talking about. There are some markets that, I mean, they're down 18% right now, you know, but remember, they climbed 34%, you know, and when you look historically, when you go back even a year, well, go back to pre-pandemic. So go back 3 years, the 4 years, you're going to see they're still above that by 5-10%, you know, so you have to understand where we went within the last 3 years, you know, going back to that goal again, 43%. That's nuts. Imagine your house, you know, was worth whatever, 100 grand. 3 years later, it's now worth $143,000 in 3 short years. When usually, what's average, Ray? 3 to 5% a year, maybe 5 to 7.
Yeah, I think previously it was like 3 to 6% actually.
Yeah, and now,
and in our market, it would kind of depend on what part of the city you were looking in.
Right. But so understand that if you're looking at other things, or if you're not, you know, in a bigger, or I mean, in California, in the bigger areas, things got so hot that, you know, they have to cool down. They have to come back. So you're seeing bigger declines. But all of these indicators, in my opinion, take it or leave it, it's a good thing. It's got to slow back down. It's got to come back down to earth a little bit. It has to.
Yeah. And there's I was just about to jump into the other market, but suddenly Inman, which I already pay for, has put up a paywall on this one. That's kind of weird.
Like pay for this article specifically?
Yeah, like there's an additional $2,500 that I could spend.
Wow, that's bold.
Yeah.
Jeez. All right, Inman.
Okay.
Try the thing,
well,
refresh, and then hit.
How about I just go to
all.
the actual press release from the actual company that is
Redfin.
So Redfin has this report, and Emma did a report on that report. We're just going to go straight to the Redfin report.
There you go. Way to lose some traffic, Inman.
So Redfin reports more buyers step onto the field, luring some sellers off the sidelines. This article was February 9th. I think it was Thursday last week. Homebuyer demand continues to increase from its fall low point, despite mortgage rates ticking up this week, according to a new report from Redfin, the technology-powered real estate brokerage. That's the problem with the report written by the company who did the report. They're going to promote themselves all throughout. Okay. Pending home sales posted their smallest decline since September during the first 4 weeks, ending in February 5th, falling 20% from a year earlier, and mortgage applications to purchase rose 3% from a week earlier. More homes are hitting the market to meet the increasing demand. New listings dropped 17% from a year earlier, but that's the smallest decline in over 4 months. So basically they're saying the decline in inventory is less than the previous declines. So it's just like, it's the opposite of the home price. It's not like there's a whole bunch more inventory coming on. There's just less leaving.
Less leaving. They're left.
Yeah.
They're getting purchased less quickly, I guess.
Yeah. I thought this quote was interesting from the Redfin economics and research lead, Chen Zhao. He said, by Super Bowl weekend, we usually have a good idea how a given year's housing market will play out. But this year, it's anything but typical. This year is more uncertain than most because the effects of last year's rapid rate hikes are still flowing through the economy, and we're not sure how much more the Fed will raise rates this year. So even after the Super Bowl comes and goes, we'll be closely monitoring the Fed's words and actions, along with inflation rates and indicators about the health of the labor market and signals that could affect homebuyer demand. So leading factors of homebuyer activity, it's got that broken down too. And you guys can kind of check out this. It's at investors.redfin.com. You can look at their news, and it's got all that stuff on there.
Even after the greatest Super Bowl we've ever seen, then decided by referees, comes and goes.
Oh man, that was such a. Can we just pause for a second to talk about that?
Dude, I hated that.
The anticlimactic moment.
Oh my!
I was so looking forward to like last
How is this going to end?
minutes.
Yeah.
I was in it, man. And then to see that it was that call, like all of a sudden, and people were like, oh, all the Philadelphia fans were like, oh, it was a good call. It was holding. He's probably held that guy 10 times like that entire game. And it wasn't called because it's a nitpicky call. I don't mind a nitpicky call if the whole game's been nitpicky, right? If you're going to be nitpicky,
it wasn't.
The whole game was. It was a fairly clean game. To suddenly have a nitpicky call at the very end that decides the game.
Yeah.
So annoying.
Earlier in the game, there was a couple close ones, one close catches that one was upheld, meaning not enough evidence to overturn it. And then one was overturned. But
I think they got the right calls on those based on 100%. What I was slow-mos.
One of them, I mean, they analyzed it for like 5-10 minutes, it seemed like, and the other one was a little quicker, but they were good calls. Like, and I'm not saying those are nitpicky. I'm saying they had to do those. And then at the end, hey, Antonio, and then at the end, I mean, this crescendo was crazy. It was like,
I mean, it was building.
We have
to
new music
from
Mozart, and it's building, and it's, dude, this is amazing. And then it's like, nah, we're good. It's over.
It was the ideal game for network television, tied until the end, down to the last couple of minutes, and then penalty ends it.
Well, KC was going to put
emotional, damn it,
100%. KC was going to put some sort of points on the board, and then they were going to put the ball back in the hands of that quarterback for Philly. That kid's amazing. To see what he could have done in a minute 34 or whatever he had left, dude.
Yeah.
That would have been fantastic.
I would have loved it. That would have been worth it.
All-time greatest Super Bowl of all time. And it was like, I was telling all my friends, I'm like, I don't even care. I don't care about this game. I don't have a dog in the fight, but I'm like, I'll watch it and see what's up. And I'm like, dude, this is good. I'm so glad I watched this. And then tweet, and it sucked. It sucked.
Peggy says she's heartbroken there in Philly. Yeah, I have some Philly friends that I reached out to. I was like, eating a cheesesteak in your honor.
I'm going to have a cheesesteak for lunch now.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, well, I can't even remember where we were on that, but yeah, it looks like
we're moving into the next article. We paused the show. We did a little banter for everyone.
No, that was it. That was it. That was the last one of the whole day. So we just did an entire show in 55 minutes. We covered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Wow.
11. We covered 11 articles in 55 minutes. Hopefully you guys like the new format. If you don't like the new format, please let Dan know. If you love it, I'd love some positive tweets and DMs.
Go to Ray.
Yeah. But either way, if you're listening on the podcast, don't forget to leave us a review, because that means a lot to us. We can't have the interaction with those that are listening later on the podcast. So it's really helpful if you guys let us know via review what's happening. If you're watching on Clubhouse, don't forget to follow the little green house at the very top that says Real Estate Networking. That's one of the most popular and largest real estate networking clubs in the entire world. So be sure you're following that club so you get alerted of great rooms like this one. And on YouTube, subscribe. Check out the other links. We're putting out shorts now every week. So you can also check out the shorts and let us know what you think about that. But Dan, before we go, would you please tell people where they can find you?
If you didn't like what we did today, then you can't find me. You cannot. You will not find me anywhere on the interwebs. But if you loved today's show, it's at dludwiggrocks, DLUDWIGROCKS. And at that same tag, go find me on YouTube. I have more content coming, but I've done a video on the clickbait stuff. Go watch that. Give it a like. Give it a comment for me. Get some engagement up. I would really appreciate that. I have 10 subscribers, Ray. I'm going to do a 10 subscriber celebration show. I'm going to do a 10 subscriber celebration video. I know people like to wait for 100,000 subs and million subs.
Never start
I'm going to do it for 10, and then I'm going to do it for 20, and then I'm going to do it for 30 until I
the subs on our YouTube channel here. We get way more people listening to the podcast than watching live or subscribe to the channel, but we're getting on up there too. If we get 1,000, we can do some special stuff on YouTube. So
yes, we can. Sure. So keep it. If you're not subscribed, go subscribe. But dludwiggrocks, DLUDWIGROCKS, everywhere. I appreciate you guys. Ray, where can they find you?
Find me at Ray Zorback, RAYZORBACK. So thank you guys, and we will see y'all next week.
We did it under